My name is Irene Cayas. I was born in 21st of February 1948 on a tiny island called Lipsi, part of the Dodecanese and the smallest island of the Dodecanese. Well, when I was very young, I still have a photographic memory of the days before we left, where our house was, where any part of the island was, where my grandparents lived. So the image in my eyes right now and in my head is my brother running away and going up to a cave to run away so he wouldn't come to Australia. So the whole island was out searching hours before we left. My father was illiterate, but my mum had finished primary school. Well, they were self-sufficient and subsistent farmers, most of them. My father was quite well off. My mother had her godmother as her carer and looked after her, so we had a fabulous life. Well, my mother is a Vikia. She was a Paradiseis, and the surname is Makris. My father is Vasilios Makris. Well, my father had a small vineyard and they had all their vegetables and everything. They had goats as well. I had a brother who passed away at the age of 44. His name was Emmanuel. Then I had another brother. His name was Lucas, but he died at 9 months. Then there's me, so I was the third child. And then after that, we had another girl, Maruso. Well, third time round, they had another girl, and her name was Lucia, the feminine form of Luca. I remember one of my aunties going to Patmos, which is an island near Lipsi, very biblical and very religious island. And my auntie came back after a week in Patmos, and we all had to carry everything to my grandparents' house because they took their olives and their food and everything to Patmos. I remember my godfather. He brought stories back from Asia Minor after they left Turkey. So a lot of those things stay with me. And I do remember the village squabbling and competitions and all that. We had no power. We had a lamp as our light. And I remember that vividly because my mother was trying to read to us with that lamp. So those things have stuck in my mind. I remember a lot. For a small child, I remember a lot. May I say, religion and our church was part of our daily life. My parents lived and practiced orthodoxy to the fullest. I have an uncle that was a monk in Patmos. That uncle of mine, in 2018, became a saint. He was canonized, if we can use that in the Greek Orthodox Church. He became Saint Amphilochios of Patmos. Recently, when I was there in 2018, they built a monastery where my great uncle Amphilochios passed away. So Patmos has amazing history. It's the second most religious place on earth after Jerusalem because so much happened. St. John wrote the Revelations. There was so much history there. Patmos is very special to us, and my mother's side of the family is from Patmos. So we came out in October 1954. We came to Australia, and I remember the journey vividly. I was 6 when I left Greece, and my siblings were younger except for my brother who was 10. Well, my father thought, I've got 4 children, how am I going to educate them? How am I going to give them a better life than they're having on Lipsi? Many years later, I would say to him, why did you leave after I'd visited? why did you leave this paradise to take us to Australia? He says, well, you wouldn't be who you are if we didn't go to Australia. But when we came to Australia, we realised that my father only wanted to educate his son, not us girls. But I proved him wrong with the help of my mother. I was determined to finish high school. I remember farewelling my granddad, who came to my papo, I hate saying granddad, my papo, at the pier in Piraeus. And then I remember the food, the luxury of the food. I remember going through the Suez Canal, and I remember it was the first time I had seen a dark person, because we were all white on the island and in Greece wherever we went. So I remember seeing the Arab children swimming on the bank of the Suez Canal and begging for stuff, and we were throwing things to them like an orange or something like that, and that was so vivid in my mind. It was the most beautiful sight to see another place with other people. And I wonder if that led me to multiculturalism in my life. I remember stopping at Fremantle and looking with high expectations to find my father on the pier, not knowing that it was another 3,000 kilometres away, if not more. But we didn't get off. My mother was fearful because she had a terrible journey being sick on the ship. So what happened, we stopped in Melbourne, and my father was there with relatives from Melbourne to greet us. Now we're home, we're here. No, we had to catch a train for a day to go to Sydney. So that was not what we expected. We didn't know the tail end of our journey, how it was going to be, and the expectations, and we didn't have food to eat on the train. They gave us these meat pies. In that day, because we were immigrants, they would give you something. We didn't have any money or anything, but we got a meat pie, my first encounter of a meat pie. We went straight to Sydney, and from there we went to a disused waterfront. Now this was unbelievable. Waterfront port office, customs office. And there was our sponsor that sponsored us to Australia and 5 other families. And we were designated 2 rooms upstairs, 2 rooms. So we were in Little Edward Street, Balmain East. Very famous today because the first school was built there in Nicholson Street. Well, we had no electricity or hot water on Lipsi. Well, there was nothing upstairs in these 2 rooms. My mother had divided the one room into 3 by putting rope and sheets up. Growing up Greek in Australia in the 50s and 60s was difficult in many ways. I was very fortunate that I had very receptive teachers. That made me feel special. But the difficulty was we were different. Even though the colour of our skin, we didn't look foreign. I didn't think we looked foreign. We were still made fun of, and I hate the word racial discrimination. It's gone on forever. But we were made fun of by children because we couldn't speak English. That was the first thing. Our lunch was a piece of bread with maybe some cheese. That was it. We were fortunate that I had an older brother that could pass back the bullying to those that offended us. So he was a bit of he hated being in Australia. He wanted to be in Greece. So you could tell he was rebellious. So growing up in Australia for him was hard. My parents would not allow us to speak English in the house. Well, this part I hate. They would not allow us to bring non-Greek young people in our house, which to me was very discriminatory on my father's part. And looking back now, it's one thing he couldn't understand. That's how he felt. He wanted to maintain his religion, his culture, and everything else to go with it. So English was my priority. My first school in Australia was at Nicholson Street Primary School, Balmain East, right on the harbour. You could see the Opera House now, and you can see the Harbour Bridge way back then. So we then went to Balmain, Birch Grove Primary School. And from there I went to high school at Riverside Girls High School. And I finished high school, and I might say I had a bit of discrimination there because my career guidance officer said to me, you should leave school at 15 because your type will only leave school and get married. You should go and work either in Coles or go and clean the toilets at the railways. And I said, this gives me more reason to fight. And I left and got a job in the Commonwealth Bank as an interpreter. I worked for a whole year before I got married. My husband, Dennis, didn't want me to work. He had a traineeship with BHP and he had a future ahead of him. So he didn't want me to work. But I made sure that I went secretly and found a job, and I worked in a finance company because I had the skills of banking. We got married on the 31st of December because that's what suited the working parents. New Year's Eve was the day we had no choice. We booked the Holy Trinity Church in Surrey Hills. The priest was Father John Evangeli Neves, and had 350 people at our weddings, and it was held in our backyard. The most important thing to me was to have a family. I was getting $141 a fortnight in a bank. Dennis was still finishing his internship. So we thought we'll wait 3 years before we have any children. I was 18, he was 22. So it was the hardest part of my life, trying to convince my parents there was nothing wrong with us. I was blessed with 3 children and 7 grandchildren. My first child is Yvonne. My son is Constantine, Con. And my baby is Vasily, Vas. So my daughter has a son and a daughter. I don't want to name them, is that all right? My son has a son and a daughter. They're all university graduates. One of my granddaughters is a beautician. And my youngest son has 3 boys. And I love them dearly, and they're very special to me. And to Dennis, of course. They're very special to both of us. My first encounter of loneliness was going to Garden City, pushing a trolley with 2 children in there and crying. No one knew me. I might add to all my friends, and now I go to Garden City and I duck, I hide, because I'll never get anything done if I stop to speak to all my friends. I got involved with the Ethnic Communities Council of Queensland at the time with Nick Zinnius, and I got to represent the Ethnic Communities Council at various other groups, and that's how I got involved with an organisation called Older People Speak Out. I was part of a group that started in the hospitals. We would meet at the PA and talk to solicitors and everyone how to stop family members abusing their parents. That was one of the biggest projects I was with older persons advocacy network. I received my Order of Australia Medal in 2018. I was notified 3 weeks before the presentation, but I was going overseas for 3 months. So then they gave it to me at the end of the year, when I returned. But to this day, I don't know exactly who nominated me. Any three, the older people speak out. I don't know about the Greek community, whether they do that sort of thing. And the Ethnic Communities Council. I just know that it was an honour and a privilege for me to receive it. You don't do it for accolades and praises and medals. You do it because you receive so much back. And it's an honour to serve people. It really is an honour. In 1993 to 1996, together with the team at church, we produced the cookbook, the Australian Greek cookbook, which I was the editor for. It was amazing to get all our older Greek women to come and say, you put how much yeast yeah, or how much this, and I say, a fistful. That cookbook has been reprinted 7 times, but that was a challenge, and it took us 3 years to do it. My favourite recipe would be spanakopita and gemista, right? But I like to do octopus in wine sauce. I like to do geftedes, all those things. And on some occasions, my grandchildren come and participate with me, my daughter. It's become part of our family thing. And this year it's 50 years of the anniversary coming up in 2026. The panigiri is a very important part of exposing people to our culture, exposing people to our food, to our dancing. It is important that the community as a whole sees what we do. It's not just smashing plates. It's the comradeship, everyone getting together. In 1994, Dennis retired from DHP, and we went 3 months all over England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, Europe, back to England, back to Greece. I wanted to be in Greece with my mum and dad. I wanted them to be there, and we made it, and we were there with my parents on Lipsi, and we did other travel through there. And then we booked to go to Egypt and absolutely loved it. Did a cruise down the Nile. We went all the way to the Valley of the Kings, went down through the tombs. We visited the Cairo Museum as well. We went to Alexandria, places where my husband had remembered and grew up. One of the best trips was in 2010, where we went to Asia Minor, Turkey, with Father Gregory in a group. There was only 18 of us, and we went to Constantinople, and it was just the most amazing journey for 2 weeks. We've been back to Greece and Italy because I've got family on my father's side in Italy. My father's sisters ran off with Italian soldiers from Rhodes. They were working in Rhodes. Another special place that I visited at a conference this year was Garden Island, where the naval officer is and all the submarines and that. And my father worked there as a boilermaker in the 1950s, 60s. So that had special meaning. I haven't mentioned what my mother did either in any situation here. She was the accountant, the bookkeeper, the translator, and the command. So she worked in a laundry, and the boss that she had would want help on weekends. So my mum, my aunt, and I would go to this house, a mansion, and dust and wash and clean the boss's house. And she wanted me to go because my little fingers can dust all the carved furniture she had in there. So that was, and she'd give me 5 shillings. 5 shillings was a lot of money back then. And then my mother worked in a kitchen at the mental institution in Rozelle called Cullen Park. She cooked for the doctors, the psychiatrists, the administrators. She was an amazing cook, and I think I took after her. Well, I'm an Elvis Presley freak. My favourite human being was Elvis Presley, right? And my walls were full of Errol Flynn, Cliff Richards and Elvis Presley in my bedroom. Till the day I got engaged and my father walked into my bedroom and ripped all my posters off the wall. That was the most horrifying thing. I could have had them now, they all would have been valuable. My favourite movie would have to be The King and I. I was 8 years old and my father and mother took us to the Balmain cinema and we sat through The King and I. It was like magic, seeing something on the screen. We had never encountered anything like that. But my father was a very wise man. To keep our schools at home all the time, we were the first people in our whole Gip Street to buy a television. It took him 5 years to pay it off. Why is that? Why was the television important to him? He knew that his girls are going to come home after school and turn on the TV after they've done their chores, because we had a lot of housework to do. Never did I take a day off school in my entire life, whether I was sick or not, because if I stay home, my mother would say, can you do the ironing, put out the washing, do this? So I was awarded a prize for outstanding student in charity work and for never missing a day of school. Now, I've never heard that award before, but there it is. And I was allowed to have Good Friday off to go to church. I spoke about my religion in my life, but my real learning about religion was when I was at school. I went to Church of England scripture lessons, and at the end of our street, on Sundays, if we didn't go to church, a young nun would come and teach us Sunday school, sitting on the footpath in front of this abandoned warehouse and porthouse that we lived in. So I classified myself Australian Greek, and I'm Orthodox in my faith, but I have a lot of respect for all the other religions. And today I say to a lot of multicultural groups that I speak to, I say, please maintain your language, your culture, your religion, your food. Maintain all that. See, it's too late for many of our Greek kids, because our Greek kids now, we speak to them in English all the time. And I've sent my 3 kids to Greek school and they need interpreters in Greece. So tell me, thank God my 2 boys married Greek girls that speak Greek and they can help me. My daughter, she finished high school in Greek. here in Australia, of course. But I want them to know that all that knowledge that I've got came from someone else and that it's passed down through the generations. And I want them to take note. Like I wasn't taking note about my uncle. I thought my father was telling fairy stories. I really thought he was telling me fairy stories about this man, how the Italians and the people in Rhodes treated him badly. And then all of a sudden this orphanage still exists in Rhodes and people go and visit it. You know, and I just want, my example was that, and I wasn't listening to my parents and my brilliant father-in-law and mother-in-law. They were brilliant human beings. So whatever I've gained is because I learned from them as well. So that's what they have to do, the younger generation. They don't have to give the time that I've given and many other volunteers and many other people that you have interviewed. They have to make their own way. I have a granddaughter who's serving the community. She's a paramedic and a nurse, and she goes around and serves coffee and sandwiches to the homeless. 1 out of 7 is pretty good. Others do it in other ways, as I said earlier. But I'm just praying that as they get older and they have more time to spend, I can call on them for anything, to go and do a sausage sizzle at Bunnings, to come and help serve the elderly at church, to drive me somewhere when I don't have the car. They do things like that, which is very important to them and to me and to their grandfather. Yeah.